business in Wuna, the phone charger. Every household can now charge their own phones. And this is a trend everywhere you look. With more solar power deployment, a lot more is going to happen. A lot more activity, a lot more commercial activity, a lot more jobs in maintenance and other systems. Algeria, for example, created 3,500 jobs just in the construction of a 14-grid connected solar PV projects in 2015, with 700 permanent jobs expected in operation and management. Kenya has built Africa's largest wind farm at Lake Turkana, providing 310 megahertz of reliable, low-cost energy to Kenya's national grid. 15% of the country's installed capacity is now solar. Its construction created more than 2,000 local jobs. The point being made, especially for solar power, is that there are just millions of homes waiting to be serviced, especially in the rural areas. Besides, our solar power demand in Africa and our relatively cheap labor costs make Africa a logical candidate for solar panel and components manufacturing. And a lot of the smart money is looking in the direction of investing in solar manufacturing in Africa. Agriculture is another sector where actions in Africa can have positive outcomes for the entire world. With the right mix of policies, Africa can feed its growing population in a sustainable manner and meet nutritional standards, while also becoming a large-scale supplier of grain and food to other parts of the world that are shifting out of agricultural production. To take the example of Nigeria, we are undertaking a concerted effort in agriculture to boost security, food security, and create jobs for our rapidly growing population by excluding our reliance and reducing our reliance, rather, on food imports, which run into billions of dollars annually. Our rice, wheat, and fish imports have cost us nearly $4 billion per annum over the past 2 decades. Through investments in agricultural inputs, machinery, finance, agricultural extension, we're seeing growing results, with agricultural sectors demonstrating positive GDP growth even while the country was in recession in the last year. As of the end of 2017, we're producing 10 million tons of paddy rice, and rice imports have dropped by 80%. 6 million new jobs have been created in agriculture. Local and foreign investors from the Dangote Group to New Hope Group to Heineken are taking note, expanding their positions in Nigeria's very dynamic agricultural value chain. And they're going into maize, to cashew nuts, to sorghum, to millet, etc. With over 50% of the world's arable land and over half of that uncultivated, it's becoming clearer that the world will be looking to Africa as its food basket. Just to take China's demand alone, China has 27% of the world's population, but only 7% of the world's arable land for agriculture. So China needs, and has asked even Nigeria, for 2 million tons of hybrid soya beans per annum for livestock feed and vegetable oil, and we've not been able to meet that demand yet. Sesame seed from Africa is also in high demand. About 2 million tons per annum is the demand from China, from Vietnam, from Japan, and the Arab countries. Sesame seed oil and the cake is used for confectionaries. That demand also is largely unmet. China also requires 2.3 million tons of cassava chips and cassava products for industrial starch and ethanol. And we've not been able to meet that demand. Neither have we been able to meet China's demand for cocoa. How about goat meat? 120,000 carcasses of goat meat is required weekly in different Arab countries. There's still a major gap in supply here as well. And goat meat, by the way, is a very enjoyable delicacy. Maybe that's why we're not producing enough. Most of Vietnam's demand for over 2.5 million tons of cashew is also unmet. So Africa's role as food provider to the world, and especially in the next few decades, is clear. The opportunity will provide millions of additional jobs, and revenues will grow exponentially. If we process and take advantage of the agribusiness value chain, there is bound to be even more activity, even more jobs. Besides, Africa is the logical frontier of the green economy. Our credentials in sustainable agricultural practices are excellent. We have arable, largely organic lands that have not been tampered with, at all by some of what we see are largely organic lands, have not been contaminated by chemical fertilizers, which means that Africa can produce food with near 100% environmentally sustainable labels for most of the world's demand, including premium-paying customers. We may also emphasize our environmental credentials by virtue of sustainable land practices. Our oil palm plantations in particular will be able to go into markets where competitors cannot go without breaking environmental rules, such as Southeast Asian oil palm production. The projections on the African food and beverage market is exciting. This is a market that's worth up to $1 trillion and will increase by 2030 to about $1.5 trillion. Foreign direct investment is projected in agriculture to go from about $10 billion in 2010 to $45 billion as of 2018. In addition, the growth of this sector would reduce poverty twice as fast as growth in other sectors, especially if we're able to develop the entrepreneurial capacity of our youth in agribusiness to take advantage of the extremely lucrative agricultural business value chains. Rwanda and Ethiopia are excellent examples of non-resource-rich African countries that are attaining impressive growth. And they're able to do so because of their focus on agricultural practices that are contemporary and that are cutting edge. Agriculture accounts for 50% of Ethiopia's employment capacity, and in Rwanda, close to 60%. What perhaps is most exciting is the emergence of young, innovative entrepreneurs in Africa, providing thousands of new jobs along the agricultural value chain. A few examples: Fahad Awad, a 29-year-old entrepreneur from Tanzania, who set up a cashew processing facility in Tanzania. The factory brings international standards and traceability to cashew nuts. The company's flagship processing facility in Zanzibar has an installed capacity of 2,500 tons per annum and recently raised $500,000 investment from the Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund to establish another processing facility in Mtwara in southeastern Tanzania. Ndidi Nwuneli is a Nigerian entrepreneur and also a social entrepreneur. She founded the AACE Food Processing and Distribution. AACE is an agro-processing company, and it sources its produce from small cluster farms in rural communities across West Africa. It also facilitates access to microfinance and farming technologies for all of the farming groups that is associated with. AACE was founded about 8 years ago, and today its annual turnover is in excess of several million dollars. I think it's estimated to be about, its annual turnover is estimated to be about $20 million every year. Sheon and Shei Abolaji started what they describe as Wilson Juice, a fresh juice company that they started in southwest Nigeria. Their main brand is called Wilson's Lemonade and is sold now at almost every major grocery in Nigeria, 150 locations in all. The bottles and every ingredient, lemon, local hibiscus flower, sugarcane, are all produced in Nigeria. Fatima Wushishi is the Chief Operating Officer of Fifth Harvest Limited, a post-harvest solutions provider. The company strengthens the value chains of crops such as groundnuts, rice, and maize. Their solutions targeted at local farmers range from agro-commodities, procurement services to storage services, as well as warehouse receipt finance. Blondie Opuzom is the CEO and founder of Bath Candy Company, a skincare, bath, and body social enterprise. The company is unique for its insistence on environmentally friendly products. Lanre Keru is an agricultural economist and CEO of Farm City Limited, a farmland focused on growing vegetables using hydroponic farming techniques. There's also Babangana Agriculture. This is a company that is involved in agricultural franchise. The company found a need and opportunity in the fact that smallholder farms were unable to break even due to low economies of scale. So the company deploys a model that franchises farmer groups and provides them with cost-effective end-to-end services and training, and finds markets for their produce. All of these entrepreneurs that I've mentioned across Africa, all of them are under 40 years old, all of them. And there's just an increasing number. And there's just an increasing number of them day by day. Manufacturing can also be part of this positive story, despite fears of premature industrialization, deindustrialization. The point has been made elsewhere, and is that there is a potential 85 million jobs that can be relocated to Africa from China through the movement of sunset industries as a result of the increasing wage gap between unskilled workers there and those in African countries. The ramping up of production under this scenario will be assisted by the establishment of the Continental Free Trade Area, which will create an Africa-wide market that enables the economies of scale on which successful manufacturing depends. This CFTA should be ready this year, and is one of the major discussions that will be on the table at the Africa Summit this weekend. Also, because of the relative underdevelopment of the African industrial sector, it is possible for the continent to take a more environmentally friendly approach to industrial development. Just to go back slightly to the point I've just made, because China, which used to be the world's factory, is, of course, experiencing higher wages, Africa is going to be the next logical place for most of those manufacturing jobs to come to. And we're already seeing signs of that. We're opening in Nigeria special economic zones, and there's a great deal of interest from Chinese countries, from Chinese companies that want to come and invest in the SEZs. Simple. Labor costs are cheaper. It's easier for us also to transport those goods to many parts of Europe, and also to the Continental Free Trade Area, which we are opening up in Africa. This is an excellent opportunity, and the prognosis is excellent. An excellent example of some of the rigorous planning also that's going especially into how we can use industry, in an environmentally friendly way, and ensure that our industries are compliant with all of the environmental trends or the environment-friendly trends that we want to establish, is one that we've seen in Ethiopia, the Hawassa Industrial Park, which has one of the most advanced effluent discharge systems in the world. And in the Hawassa Park, we have a zero-emission water treatment plant. And that zero-emission water treatment plant is one that is going to be replicated in many different parts of Africa. So many other countries are looking at that example. Technology especially is, in my view, an important plank in Africa's job creation plans. In and of itself, technology provides opportunities in coding, creating the applications, and so many other aspects of digital technology that we can take advantage of. So today, African technology talent can find employment around the world and ultimately contribute to the growth and development of their own countries. Fortunately, on account of the age in which we now live, the age of outsourcing, teleconferencing, remote working, and so on, that is now very possible. Andela, some of us here might have heard of Andela, is a good example. Andela is a company that operates primarily in Nigeria and Kenya. Thank you. Andela is a company, I've said, that operates primarily in Kenya and Nigeria. It was co-founded by a young Nigerian called Yemi Osinbajo. The company trains young Africans living in Africa to code and then find jobs for them in Western countries where the demand for skilled coders is high. By the very nature of coding, it can be done remotely, which means that talents can stay back in Lagos or Nairobi or elsewhere and still earn decent salaries, build thriving ecosystems, and contribute the value of their salaries and taxes to their home countries. So Andela is operating a model which can be replicated in several parts of the world. Now, I want to say that it is in the area of technology, in particular, that I believe that Africa will find some of its most interesting opportunities. Because the most important developments for Africa in digital technology is how young digital entrepreneurs have created solutions to challenges, especially in the various industrial value chains, and have created thousands of jobs in the process. And I'll just give you a few examples. There's Thrive Agric, an innovative agric tech startup supported by a Nigerian company called Ventures Capital. Ventures platform is really a venture capitalist and invests in several startups. And they have invested in Thrive Agric, which was founded by Uka Eje and Ayo Arikawe. One is a farmer, the other is a software engineer. The company leverages technology to aggregate finances for smallholder farmers. They also provide inputs and farming services that increase farm yields fourfold for thousands of ordinary farmers around the country. There are also big data collection companies. Mobile Forms is one, Form Plus is another. The Mobile Forms platform is creating new employment opportunities for thousands of Africans as data collection agents to collect data on farms and maps of farmlands. So this also gives farmers better access to finance. I hear also that they're about to roll out one of Africa's first coin offerings. So cryptocurrencies, here we come. Flutterwave and Paystack are also two African companies that have pioneered payment systems with innovative technology, and they are doing incredibly well. Flutterwave has processed $1.2 billion in payments in 10 million transactions in less than 3 years of operations. Paystack, which was founded just in 2015, is doing turnover now of over $5 million in payments monthly. Another African digital technology success story is the RAC Center. It's a wholly Nigerian-owned carrier-neutral data center, the first of its type in Africa. It's in essence a co-location data center that holds IT assets for businesses and delivers cloud solutions to them. It now hosts multinational companies and connects all of the undersea cables servicing the Atlantic coast of Africa. There's no question that technology will provide for Africa the answer to many of the big issues that confront us. Educating as also finding jobs for the millions of new entrants into the job market. Technology can enable us, give African youth an education that is fit for the times in terms of science, technology, engineering, and maths, as well as training across a range of skills relevant to the 21st century job market. I'll come back to this crucial point presently. A low-hanging fruit is using technology in the training of large numbers of young people, leapfrogging traditional obstacles such as access to books and educational materials, especially in the rural areas. Our government, as part of our social investment program, engaged 200,000 unemployed graduates from practically every local government area in Nigeria, and we're employing 300,000 more. The program is called the Empower Volunteer Program. The idea is that these volunteers will work as teachers, farm extension workers, and public health officers. But during the course of their employment, They have access to a broad range of technology and entrepreneurial training, and all of that material is loaded onto electronic tablets given to them and is also available on an open portal. 2 points to note. First, the training that number, over 200,000 simultaneously in far-flung parts of the country, would have been practically impossible without technology. Second, training in relevant technology and entrepreneurship skills is crucial to preparing these young people for the new market for digital jobs and the numerous extensions. Now, this brings us to the big question: educating young people in Africa for the jobs of the 21st century. There's no question in my mind that we must radically change not just what we teach, but how we teach. We are in a new educational era. The emphasis on academic knowledge and general certifications will not be useful for many of the new jobs. New curricula and training techniques must be applied. We must begin from the premise that most low-skill service jobs are disappearing forever as digital technology and robotics take over. Also suddenly, bank tellers, shop assistants, production line workers are disappearing with the development of online services and industrial robotics, respectively. But as someone said, if history is anything to go by, the technologies that take away jobs will also provide and create new jobs. The technologies that take away all of these jobs will provide new jobs. The only problem is that the new jobs will need a different set of skills, maybe more complicated than the previous ones. In this case, digital skills. And to quote a source, the explosion in industrial robotics, for example, is eliminating thousands of assembly line jobs, but is creating a demand for people who can design, who can manufacture, who can program and maintain these machines. Digital skills in this new era are like what vocational education used to be in the old era. Most of the education will be more democratized. It will be online and made available to millions at the same time. The courses will be relevant to work-based skills required by industry. They will therefore be dynamic as industry needs change. I'm sure many of us are familiar with Udacity and online educators like that. Many of them, of course, point in the direction that we're headed. They develop the curriculum for their online training for job-ready skills in collaboration with industry. Many of these online educators are already affiliated with AT&T, Google, Facebook, and several other such major concerns. Africa has a unique opportunity to train its large youth population to become the best digitally trained people in the world, beginning from primary schools, where code writing and other digital skills can be taught. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there is no question at all that this century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership. Visionary and innovative leadership. But we're not now talking of merely political leadership. After all, which political leader has influenced the direction of world development as profoundly as the likes of the founders of Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, or Google, and several others? So the leaders we're talking about are this generation of African youth and their friends around the world. Some of them who are in this room, who see the incredible opportunity to revolutionize a continent, who see this continent as their business in the next few years. Fortunately, technology has created a level playing field, and so you don't need any invitation to the table. Your ideas and drive is what will earn you a place. But if I were a betting man and I was asked will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying, especially with all of you guys. So welcome to the Africa Century. Thank you very much.